to, hopefully he can explain a little bit about why I think we have the funding issues that we have. You know, like I say, shifting costs from one facility to another does not really solve anything except for Bluntville Middle. When you get rid of a building, yeah, you save money. But you save money at Sullivan West, but at what cost? What's going to happen to the student-teacher ratio at those schools? Is it not going to float? I don't know if there's a legal limit at which you can have, maybe Angie can answer that, but I would think there's a limit at which you can cram people into a school, kids into a school. It's like the Allegiant effect. You know, we'll cram tons of people into an airplane, leave it standing room only, and we'll only fly twice a week. That's kind of what this feels like. And so I'm hoping we can get some numbers around that. You know, I found out about this Friday, so I've not really had that much time to dig into it, but I'm going to dig into it. I hope Angie will help me. I hope Mike will help us. So I have some of the same information that Tracy has, and they've done some really good research about, you know, of course, how great IA is. If we're standing only on the progress of this school and the achievement of this school, this is the best middle school, the best performing middle school in this area. And I include Kingsport City in that. I include Johnson City in that. So you can go to schoolleader.com and find it's an independent source. It's not my opinion. You know, again, I'm a numbers person. So just keep those things in mind. I do think that staying together with this and coming up with a good plan to explain why we believe IA needs to stay open, why this can't be recreated in another facility. This is not going to work somewhere else. I think Kingsport's fine. So I'm quick with that. I'm going to let Tracy say that Tracy one talk about the actual the line items that they discovered that I think support why IA stays open. But at the end of the day, we need to keep in mind that we have a funding issue here, and that's what needs to be answered.
This is working again. All right, I'm Tracy Padgett, husband Rodney Padgett. Again, we're probably going to reiterate some of the stuff that you said, just because we just started this on Friday, so we've had very little time to get this together. But everybody knows what's going on, correct? There's a current problem with funding, a loss of $1.6 million in annual renovation money due to a budgetary cut by the county commission. And we also have more than $300,000 annually going toward resource officers, for which was not accounted for. One of the things I'm hoping that you'll go through is how did this problem originate? Why all of a sudden do we have a cut this big? Also, anybody that wants to attend, I think it would be wonderful if we just have not necessarily everybody talking at the Board of Education meetings or the county commissioner meetings, but I think a showing of people also will help our cause. The Board of Education is meeting tomorrow at 6:30. They'll also have a meeting, it's generally the first Tuesday of the month, correct, at 6:30?
Yeah, holidays.
Yeah, January may be a little off. Yeah. County commissioners, their meeting is December 20th. It's a Thursday at 6 o'clock. I also think that it would be good to be there. They will let you talk if you would like to talk and express your viewpoint. For the coming meeting, it is not on the agenda, so you have to wait till the end of the meeting to make comments. But you have to fill out some sort of information before the meeting starts to say that you do want to make a comment.
On Thursday, the 13th is our work session for the county commission, and people can also speak up.
Okay, she said Thursday night, the 13th is the work session, 6 o'clock for the county commissioners. People can also make comments there. The Board of Education did point out that they probably don't want more than 2 or 3 people talking for no more than 3 to 5 minutes at a time because it becomes redundant. But if you feel like you have something different to say, I would say it. So some of the questions that I'm going to try to just put out there are the diversion of students to Holston Middle School from Bluntville Middle School, and then Sullivan Gardens may be going to Colonial Heights. It wasn't stated, but basically it's going to double the amount of students at these schools. Yet the way that they are trying to raise this money that for the renovations is by cutting personnel. I know that's not your term, but basically either redistributing the personnel in some way by replacing people that are being retired, if there's enough of them, or cutting them in some way. However, you're not cutting student numbers, so that's a concern of mine, because if you decrease personnel, decrease teachers, one way or the other, either retired people or people that are eligible for retiring retire, or whether you're cutting actual teachers, you still have to deal with all the students. And classroom numbers is a big concern for us. Especially if you combine IA2 and Holston Middle, then you're going to have about 800 kids coming through this door for middle school. Also, as we pointed out, IA, and let me let you go through the numbers with how IA performs compared to other schools. But basically, if you're going to start having a big, huge amount of kids in the classroom per teacher, then your academic performance is going to certainly go down. And IA has stood out in that realm.
So, a couple different resources that I use for this. I'm not sure. A couple different resources. Schooldigger.com is one I looked at just to kind of do a comparison of our school versus other schools in Sullivan County. And I ranked 46 out of the 563 middle schools in the state, according to their website. The next closest county school, I believe, was Colonial Heights at 126. And even Vance up in Bristol was 124. John Sevier was 206. And Robinson was 71st. So we beat out county and city both as far as Sullivan County goes. We, on the state report card, the Tennessee.gov website, there's a state report card where you can go and look at achievement scores. And I've got, anybody wants to look at this is welcome to look at it, but I've got ELA, science, and math all charted out. Compare, I don't have the city schools, I have the county schools on this. Basically, you have a below basic knowledge of approaching basic knowledge, contact, proficiency, and mastery sort of grade on this. And of course, these two you want to have low numbers, and these two you want to have high numbers. We beat out everybody. In some instances, not even that close. So our school is excellent. Our school should be more of a pedestal. It shouldn't be the one that's got. That's what I mean. Like I said, I'll be happy for you guys to look at this.
We have a copy of that for all the board members, and I'm going to get it to the county commissioners. Yes, I went ahead and
And
gave
those
it.
scores are going to affect the high school.
Yes.
Because these kids are in.
I know you don't like the word tit for tat, but it does seem like it's going back and forth between the county commissioners and the Board of Education with this financing. And another point that we were going to try to make is that it'd be lovely for you guys to sit down and try to work together on this. We think that would be great.
And we're not saying that personally.
Yes.
We're saying,
But
but we're,
right,
as
yes.
commissioners, please, we would really appreciate
And I'm
it.
sure that, we're very glad that you're here, but I mean, any of us would be more than happy to meet with you guys too, outside of this meeting as well, just discuss anything that needs to be discussed. But also another point I was gonna try to make is this is a STEM-based school, it's the only STEM-based school. We're supposedly building this STEM-based high school, yet we're gonna remove the STEM-based middle school, and it just doesn't flow well. It still reminds me of Holston Elementary with the STEM elementary school. And again, at one point it had a grant, and we just wiped that out. I feel like we're doing the same thing. And it makes me really question how true we are on what we're going to end up with the final product even for the high school when we can't follow suit with elementary and middle schools.
You had on concerns about the Holston middle school program, the Delta middle school too. Some other concerns we had, not just in the student ratio and stuff, is like, well, school safety. You're gonna have many more students here, and we're gonna need more safety there. Number two is you got your traffic. I mean, we're already, every morning that we come in here to drop off, we're already lined up to the road, and sometimes on the road. So you got Northeast State there, you got the airport, you got us. You had 300 more people running through here. Well, probably, okay, let's say 100 to 125 more people driving up here. And some would be bus, but that's gonna create a little bit of a traffic flow issue too in the area. I
And
don't
that's
know if
both
that
pick up and drop off. It's havoc both times.
This carpool I've ever seen in my life.
I
think it was. This carpool is
It actually made it worse.
absolutely
though.
insane.
Well, I mean, I say that kind of facetiously, but the morning that they were directing traffic was the worst I've seen it. I don't know if that was because they were there or not. But.
Mr. Hughes, I know I talked to you about this, but the article in the paper mentioned, and you guys probably saw it, that they may be voting on this as early as January. Mr. Hughes said that it could be as late as March, but minimally, we don't want this just run through. We do want to request that we have some sort of delay or special meeting to try to work this out first.
We say January because that's the earliest it can happen. We were trying to give everybody plenty of time to do just what we're doing now.
Yep. So our summary questions were kind of, why are the students paying the price for the budgetary issues? Can't we work around this? The main solution seems to be getting rid of personnel, and that's going to end up overcrowding the classrooms and decreasing achievement. And we're always fighting just to even stay to me competitive with the cities, and this is just going to worsen that. One other thing I think one of you guys pointed out too is that we have several kids from innovation that will not stay in this county. They're going to go, be it to a different county, be it to a private school, because they're just not satisfied with the county education.
If you have a group of parents who are willing to drive their kids out of zone every single day for middle school to come here, they're going to be willing to drive them to Kingsport City or somewhere outside of the county. So I think the assumption that everybody that's at IA from Sullivan County is going to stay in Sullivan County is a bad assumption, because that's just not going to happen.
And
If IA closes.
14 is out of zone.
No,
No,
I'm
she's
referring to
referring to
people
more
who
than just
actually live
that.
in Sullivan County. That I don't think that they're all going to stay in Sullivan County if you close Innovation Academy.
Now, Mike, I think you told me today that $274,000 savings though included the assumption they would all be gone. Is that?
Well, include the assumption 14 would be
The
gone.
14 would be gone.
No,
Everybody
that's
else.
would be gone.
Yeah. Is
I
that?
think you're also going to lose kids from these schools because when these schools become overcrowded,
Right.
people that have other options, like in Colonial Heights, I live in Colonial Heights. Vast majority of Colonial Heights has been annexed, but a lot of them still have their kids in Colonial Heights. Well, when you cram all these kids in there, who's going to push their kids out to the city, and there goes that money.
And I also want to point out that
'Cause they have
just in my daughter's class, when she graduated from IA 2 years ago, she's just a sophomore at South, I could think of three kids that are zoned to go to a city school, whether it be Kingsport City or Bristol City, that chose to stay in Sullivan County for high school because that's where their friends are from IA. So we're making money on those kids that we are getting from other zones, just like we're making money on the 14 kids that come in. And y'all are going to lose that if you close IA, because IA brings in people that are
There
not
are
in Sullivan
city
County,
schools
and some of those
or
people
city kids.
stay in Sullivan County for high school.
Does anybody here know what the numbers were last year?
What kind of numbers?
I'm sure 143.
Dr. Lee,
What are the numbers like?
Could you speak up? We can't hear you at all. If you're asking
Yeah, he's wanting to know if anybody knows the numbers of attendance for last year for Innovation
What was
Academy.
last year?
I know there was one year that was 131 based on the sites that I was on, but I'm not sure if that was 16, 17, or 17.
By the way, what we're doing right now with threatening to close this school or making it an option,
Hurting the enrollment.
right at the time they're trying to recruit. So there is a distinct possibility that next year it's going to have an ill effect on recruitment for this school.
Because
And
Thursday
especially if you don't
night,
vote
there was
until
an
March.
interest meeting here for the kids that wanted to come next year, and then the next day, the newspaper article came out.
Yeah.
So all those kids that were here Thursday night getting excited, all got really let down on Friday morning.
Most definitely.
That number from last year is 143.
Okay, so we're
Still pretty steady.
Is that number based on the capacity or the interest in interest? How many more
It
could be
starts.
held?
Well, it varies a little bit. The only thing that we have got to
75.
serve is classroom caps by grade level. The 35 state cap, which we don't want to get to, or the 30 cap with sixth grade.
30 for sixth grade. 30 for sixth.
To echo what you said, I actually lived in the city. I chose, and I felt very fortunate that my daughter was able to come here. I lived in the city. The elementary school just up the hill from me. I chose to go to Rock Springs, and when this opportunity came up, I thought it was a wonderful opportunity. I have a daughter, and girls in math and science, you know, they're just not there. The numbers aren't there. We need something like this to get the kids interested.
And his daughter is the reason my daughter's here.
I actually sold my house in the city, to the county, closer to here, to be part of IA and part of the new high school.
What grade your child in?
She's in seventh grade.
Seventh grade.
And I'm zoned for Washington County.
So am I.
I'm zoned for Washington County. I chose Sullivan County over Washington County. I went through the proper channels through the school board. I have an out-of-zone paperwork on file. And IA with my son, who, you know, every kid is different. They have a different way of learning. They have different things that they aspire to be. And his counselor, his elementary school, and other people that have gone to IA all recommended IA because of my son, what he wants to be, what he wants his future to be, and because he's interested in STEM. And that is why the STEM program was brought to Sullivan County. And I mean, if Sullivan County wants to say, well, STEM can't be at Holston, but it can be here, there, or whatever, but you can't, in my mind, you have to give options instead of just saying, you know, or an alternate, and that was not addressed. It was just, we're going to lose it because of budget, not because, hey, you have this option now because it's more cost effective. But I know that my son, who doesn't adjust to change well, he's gone to the same school since pre-K to 5th grade, and because of the overwhelming support of IA, because of the numbers, because of the learning, because of the STEM aspect of it, you know, now you're wanting him to change after 1 year, and really, you're removing all of these kids that are coming to IA for a reason. Mm-hmm. We chose, I drive, I make arrangements every day, and now you're taking that away from them, and they earned their spot. I mean, I know, and I remember the applications for IA was very, Dr. Davis, very, like, get your hour on time, because, you know, they only accept so many kids, and they earn their spot. Mm-hmm. And this is, you're taking it away from our kids.
Yeah, and if I can, I'd like to piggyback on her for a second. My daughter is in 6th grade here, so she's only been here for a few months. She did all of her elementary at Miller Perry, which is literally right down the road from us. But she is autistic, and at Miller Perry, she had a small class size and some individual attention, which helped her grow and thrive. So when she got into 5th grade, her guidance counselor began telling us about IA and said that she would do a lot better here with a smaller class size, the attention to each student, the fact that there's more technology in, because like I assume most of your kids, she's had an iPad and an iPhone in her hand forever, so this is technology that she can use a lot better than she can just getting handed a stack of books and notebooks. And even her guidance counselor told us, she said, I'm not saying anything bad about Colonial Heights Middle, which is where she would be, but your daughter will thrive if she comes here because of the way that the classes are structured. And she's made so many more friends here than she did ever at Miller Perry, because she was sort of the odd kid over there, and she's found a group here. And she really likes this group. She's finding herself, yeah.
Are here for they don't quote unquote fit to the normal school base.
So I just worry that if Dana goes to Colonial Heights Middle School next year, it's like just being thrown into gym pop.
Yeah.
With every other kid who's there just because they live in that area. And I'm concerned about the level of attention, the individual attention that she needs to do well in a class that has 50 or 60 students.
And there's also, so I haven't, my daughter's in 6th grade. She started 6th grade IA, and I know she had issues with bullying at all of her other
moved the class, lived in Johnson City, then moved here, military for a couple of years. Out of all those schools that she's gone to, I haven't heard any issues with the NIH. None. That's huge.
Haven't heard, so repeat that part.
No bullying.
Okay, okay.
That's a big issue with my son too. We had a bullying issue. We have not had it here.
My daughter was literally pushed down 2 flights of stairs in her last school, and her school didn't do anything about it. They told me that she just needed to get tougher. Okay? Another Sullivan County school. I don't want her back in another Sullivan County school. If she has to go because this school is closed, I will homeschool. Right now, I drive her in from Churchill every day. I do not want her in a regular full school.
You know, my son Dominic, he went to Holston over here. He's in 6th grade IA right now. We had nothing but problems the whole time he was in school over here. He didn't come to IA. I let him in. He's making A's and B's. He's always barely getting by before, and now he's making A's and B's. He did good when I homeschooled him for 6 months. Better than he did in school up here. If they put these together, they could do away with IA. I will take him out and homeschool him again.
I've had 3 older girls go through Suffolk County School, through Holston, through Central. The harassment and everything was real bad. I've got my granddaughter now. She is a mixed child. And while at Holston, the elementary part, she was being harassed, being called at work. It happened 2 or 3 times this year from the middle school to Holston kids, not IA. IA, there is no color difference, no religion difference. They're all treated equal. Kids, they learn better, they work good together, they work in groups. And this is not right. I mean, what funding are you getting for IA from where now?
Say that again, I lost
I know Dominic. Last year, even though he didn't say anything probably, he probably got bullied too about being mixed.
Yeah, Dominic did too, and he got bullied over there about wearing pink to school. And the principal told me, oh, well, that's not bullying.
And then it goes all the way through Central.
We're not calling gay from other children. I go to school board to get that stopped.
I went, and I had to go to the judge. Well, they judged one girl that was bullying in high school. I told the judge, I said, if she has a clean record, scare her. Okay? He did. She came up to me when she graduated 12th grade and thanked me for opening her eyes up to her being a bully. She didn't realize it because the parents was not teaching them. The school, I told them I won't press the charges because the girl actually hit my daughter during school. Okay? I was going to press charges. Look, it happened to my youngest girl. A boy that was in school with her lived up on the hill. He threatened to catch the house on fire and everything because her mom, dad, his mom, and dad had divorced. And they said, well, we got to be easy on him because he's got problems. Well, I understand, but that's not a reason to bully.
Let's have a couple more comments, and then I'd love for you guys to be able to speak. I'm seeing you, and then we'll get to you, and then.
So we pay for private school for our children. We're zoned for Bluff City, is where our children should go. And I attended Bluff City as a child. My husband attended and did not have a good experience. His 8th grade teacher there told him that he, because he had to do summer school, he would end up in jail. He's an attorney now, so he had sort of a bad flavor. And I'm sure Bluff City's a good school, and I don't mean to disparage them, but we chose to pay for private school because we were concerned about the education of our child and our children. We still pay for private school for our younger child so that he can avoid a county school. Our child began to have trouble in private school. He is ADHD and needed to be challenged. So we pulled him out and took him to Avoca and paid tuition again for a city school. But then we became concerned again that he was not being challenged, so he came to IA. And he's a sixth grader here, and he told me, I said, how do the two schools compare? And he said, Avoca doesn't even compare to this school. This school is so challenging to him and such a good fit for children that do not learn in the traditional way. He is an A and B student, extremely intelligent, probably being too generous because he's my own child, but I think all of the children here are extremely intelligent. They just learn a different way. And without that, we're removing the opportunity for them to learn because they can't learn in the traditional environment.
I have a daughter that I can relate to. I wanted to hear, you had your opinion.
So I flourished very, very well. Like, I went to military as well, and my mom, I went from D's as and C minuses to like A's and B's, like so quick because of Innovation Academy. And like my mom said, I've never gotten home and said I've been bullied or anything like that. Like.
Back there. Yeah, and then, let you talk here in just a minute. Go ahead.
What are the other options? Because if I read the article correctly, this is the least painful option. Closing 3 schools, overcrowding 2. I don't see that being less painful. I know my son's going to be doubly hurt because if he wasn't going to AI, he's going to slow. So now he'll have to go to Point Heights. And where he is also autistic, I know he won't be able to go school there. He'll have to be homeschooled. And I'm just curious what other options there are.
Are you asking one of the other options?
One of the other options, I said, this is the least painful, closing 3 schools. What's more painful?
I don't know that they're less painful. I don't think I said that, but these were the first 3 that were brought to us. The other options that, we've challenged every board member to come with options. And I'll get back up to the mic and make sure everybody can hear this, but closing Colonial Heights would be an option. Closing North Early would be an option. There's lots of other options out there, and let me get back to the mic where I can hear it.
I think that I don't even have a child at this school. I'm here because I love this school. My son graduated 3 years ago. I don't think that anybody can understand how special this school is until they have a child go through the curriculum and see how different this way of learning is. They don't just teach the students that something happens. They teach them why it happens, and then they show them why it happens. It's very hands-on. The kids just absorb this information. No child in this school is allowed to sit in the back of the room and not take part because they all have to take part. They're all in groups. It teaches them to work together. My son became a leader at this school, and now he's a leader at South. And this school is so incredibly special.
So you had a son here?
Yes, he's graduated. He's a junior now. My daughter hopes to come here if it stays open.
I would beg that you all, I don't know how you would do it, but track her. I have a junior also that graduated here. I have a 7th grader here now. Track these kids that went to this school and look at their grades.
I understand what you're saying.
Versus, you know what I'm saying? If you can track those kids and see their grades versus the other schools,
I got you.
I think you're going to see a difference.
I have a success story. I had my son graduated from IA last year. He's a tangible learner. He's not autistic or anything, but he was a tangible learner. He graduated last year, Beta. He's a freshman at Sullivan Central, a good leader in the band, and he is running sound from the technology he learned here. He is running sound at a local theater for his 2nd show production in Jonesboro Repertory Theater. He learned so much here that he is running sound for a whole complete program's plays. This is his 2nd one since he graduated IA last year. And his younger brother is in the 6th grade, so it would be a shame to lose that for him. He had that opportunity that his brothers had, and he's already respected in a community in Jonesboro. They know him very well, and they know that he went to IA, and that's how he got that position down there.
give you this. I think all we've got to go on is, our only argument is our school is here. This is our opinion of our school. Of course, other people might have that opinion too. But our kids learn by, like they said, doing, being in groups. Like our son today was doing decimal diner, which is where you had to know how to add, subtract, divide, and multiply to get your diner to succeed, or something like that. It's practicality. It's something that's been missing from regular school for a long time. And a lot of that, I think, is because of all the testing that we do nowadays. I don't mean to, I know that's not something, that has nothing to do with funding, and it has nothing to do with, but that's the reason why that's the reason why we're all here for our school. And that's the only argument we got. We can't come up with $1.6 million. We're begging you, the commissioners, to figure that out. We don't want to see any of the schools closed because it's still overcrowding for everybody. But we would like for you guys to figure it out.
Yeah,
And we would be willing to help in that endeavor. I think a lot of these parents would be willing to go to board meetings, go to commissioner meetings. But we don't want to be like up there trying to skin you out of the lie. We want you to work, but we want you to work together, you know?
Yeah, I think the article mentioned, hey, this is going to solve the budget problem. But what the article did mention, which is why I have an issue with the article, not that we have a budget crisis or whatever. I mean, I'm understanding that, but it wasn't that we're in a budget crisis, but you said, hey, if you close the schools, this is how it's going to help the budget issue. But nowhere in the article was it, hey, this is how it's going to benefit your kids. And if you could tell me that, then I would probably, hey, I may be on board, but I need to know how it's going to benefit my son. Because I already know how IA benefits my son.
Either one.
I'm in 6th grade, and I've learned so much more because I see all the Holston students in the morning sitting on the bleachers. They take out their papers in the mornings, and half of them cheat off each other for their homework. To where you look at the IA kids, they do it all on technology. They don't cheat off each other. They might email each other asking questions. But like in Miss Hinson's class today, we did the decimal diner thing, and that helped us a lot because we went in the classroom, we stayed quiet, we solved the problem. And even though I'm just a student, I can tell you several other things that go on that the parents and the teachers don't.
So, one thing is that if you have, since we already have an overabundance of people in every school, if you close 3 schools, these people are going to have to go to places that already have too many people, and that's going to overrun the amount of students. And plus, you mentioned earlier that those schools were the first that popped into your headlines.
Let me speak a few minutes. If there's more questions, free to do so. First of all, thanks for allowing me to come. My name is Mike Hughes. I'm one of the school board members. I always have to put this, before I speak, I have to let everyone know that I'm just one member of the board. I do not speak for the board. Don't have the authority to do that. I'm here to listen and gather information. Now I'm going to tell you how, where we're at. Back in October, I asked the director to come up with options. And when we were in our workshop the other day, she did that. What you're seeing and hearing is one of the options that are out there. There's not been a proposal. It's not anything definite. It's just one of the options. That happened because we lost $1.6 million out of the budget. And we asked the director. She didn't do this upon her own. We asked her to go and come back with some options that would help recoup that $1.6 million. And this was one of those options, as you saw. The good points that I've heard you make here tonight are the amount of money in the big scheme. Of course, I know about the success of the school. I spent a couple of days here. When I first came on the board, I went into every classroom, so I've got some pretty good knowledge, actually, of what goes on here. I appreciate what I hear. If you want to use a key word with our director, use the word passion, because that's a word she likes to use and she likes to see with our students and our especially our parents. I don't want anybody to think that it's a foregone conclusion. I think the unintentional consequences is what you mentioned about the recruitment, the timing of it. The timing, it wasn't intended for that to hurt the recruitment. It was strictly, we found out in August, we told her by November have us some options, and when we said that, we didn't know what options would be there. So that was unintentional, and I'll try to clear that up at the board meeting so that anybody out there that's thinking about coming will know that it's not a foregone conclusion, and try not to hurt the recruitment process. I'll try to clear that up tomorrow night. If you come tomorrow night, I welcome you to come. I love it when we have people speak. You are at the end of the agenda. If different people speak, just try to have a different topic is all I think they were trying to tell you. It don't matter how many, just try to not say the same things is kind of the gist of it. I've read every email and I've called most of the people. I think there was one this afternoon that after I got back to work that I did forget to call, but I called the people I could call and talked to most of the people who sent me emails. I don't respond to emails through the email as much as I do. I'd rather talk to you personally. I will meet with you and have lunch with you personally, or anything like that. I don't do much back and forth through the email. I don't think it's a good way to do business, and I just don't do much of it. I will on occasion say call me or that kind of thing, but anybody who wants to go and sit down and see the details, I'm glad to do that. I'm not going to bore you to death with anything tonight that you don't want to hear. I'm not here to, I got a good friend here that's on the commission, Angie Stanley. Not here to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just stating the facts. We lost money and we react to that. We've had some lengthy conversations about how that came about. And I guess the sad thing in the big scheme of things is the kids really don't care whether whose fault it is or how it happened. And that's the sad part. But we can't ignore when we have a $1.6 million loss. We have to address it somehow, and I don't know how exactly that we will do it this year. No one, I promise you, has decided. The only thing that we've done is had it initially brought up in a workshop. The January date that I put out there is the earliest possible date. It won't happen. What I was trying to say and what I'm trying to say is it won't happen in December. It isn't likely in January, but it could. I think most people are thinking February and March, so it's not I don't think as urgent as maybe I get the feeling you think it is. But I would rather for you to think that and to make the calls and send the emails and do what you did than to go the other direction and not. So I don't know really what you want to hear. So I've heard your reasons. Now I'm going to take your questions. And I see a hand already. Speak up. I'm a little hard of hearing.
Okay, so I have a question. First of all, I want everybody to raise your hand if you want this new high school built. Okay, so our schools are getting closed for a school that nobody wants. Nobody wants that high school.
Well, that issue is come and go. That vote took place in December 2016.
Where's the 1.6 million?
Pardon me?
Where is that 1.6 million?
The 1.6 million, it was in our budget designated for renovations. And it was taken out of this budget, this budget cycle. And Angie can maybe comment on this.
What renovations? For what school?
Well, we have a general renovations fund. Now, prior to 2015, I'm giving you approximate numbers here. On an annual basis, we got about $800,000 or so, something to renovate all schools. To put that in perspective for you, it costs about $1.2 million to put 2/3 of one roof on one school, and that was East High School. So we couldn't really even roof a school for that. And I'm going to let Angie, if anything I say here that you want to comment on, chime in. We're talking about 1.6, and let me just let you hold the microphone. I've got a.
So the tax increase that was part of it was going to the school. No, it's not. But there's no tax decrease. Where'd it go? Being distributed elsewhere. Is that what it is, Angie? It's just being distributed elsewhere? I said the tax increase, part of it was going towards schools, and now it's not. Where's it going now?
No, it's not going towards the schools, it's going towards this bond.
The 1.6 is now going towards the bond.
This gets to be just a hate session on the new school honors.
Well, that's a totally different subject. That has nothing to do with this. So it doesn't. That's irrelevant. I know. How much do we get paid for city and Bristol kids? Do you know?
We get their BEP.
How much is that?
I think right now, it's
I was told at one point it was
$600.
okay. I was told like 7. So okay.
Hey, Angie, do you want to address the 1.6 million for us?
Well, I mean, if you put $9,600 and you put 14 kids, where's that going? You know what I'm saying? That's $140,000. Almost.
Hi, my name is Angie Stanley. I'm the Baldwin County Commissioner. I was there last term, and I got reelected this term. I represent this district and the Colonial Heights District and Hill Perry District. So I represent not only these districts, but I'm there for the best interest of all of the kids here in Sullivan County. Every single decision that I make, I look at every single person in this county to see how it will affect them, either positive or negative. I'm not here to have a blaming competition or whatever. There's blame, I think, on both sides, the school board and the county commission. Whenever they went and got the $140 million, they did a bond issue with it. And where I think the first problem come from, there was no communication between the school board and the county commission. If you go get a home and you apply for it at the bank, do they not want to know where you're going to pay for this and where it's going to come from? That was never done in this whole process. Never. So, the $1.6 million that was taken, it was during the budget. It was to go towards this bond, the $140 million bond. That's where it's going. Some had asked where's the $1.6 million going. At the end of the budget cycle, whenever we go to pass the budget, in the school board's budget, they do theirs, they bring it over to us, and then we approve it. Whenever they brought their budget over to us, we never sent it back to get it amended, to tell them, hey, we're going to take this, so y'all need to vote on whether you're going to change it, and then it has to come back to us. That was never done. I voted on the budget that was presented to us, and that $1.6 million was not in there that I voted on. Now, it could have been told to the school board, y'all need to take it out because we're going to take it. I don't know, I was not in that conversation of what. But in their fund balance, which is like a savings account, they have three. They have a general fund, they have a renovation fund, and they have a nutrition fund. And in the last 5 years that I've been there, they have had in their fund balance over $15 million that they have saved. And that's great. I mean, that they're saving it, that they're not overspending and stuff. But the way that the county commission, I think, looked at this was, we've got to pay for this bond somehow. It's either raise taxes or take it from the fund balance that they're saving every year. On around the $85 million budget, they were spending between 80 and 81 million a year. So where they was not spending it all and it's sitting there in the fund balance, it's not fair to go out here and raise the taxes on the taxpayers when all this money's being saved. So one of the things that I disapprove of closing this program or moving it to each individual school, what are we doing right now with Ballard? We are sitting here taking, say, all of the services from all the different hospitals and we're putting them in one. It's not going to save money by taking these programs. It's going to cost us more by putting these programs in every single school, because you have to have, I'm sure, different teachers, you know, teaching the STEM and stuff. So how are we going to spread out the 12 to 15 teachers that they have here to teach this? So, I think that when that new high school is built, that it will hurt the programs there. That's the whole reason that we was building this high school up here, was to add all these CTE programs and stuff. But now we're wanting to take away their feeder program that will be feeding into that. And I don't agree with it. I will address the SROs. I was a proud sponsor of that SRO resolution. I got SROs in every single campus in this county. There is no amount of money that I could put on any child or any faculty or any teacher's life here in this county. I would have been proud to raise the taxes for SROs. But Governor Haslam came out with $32 million that they were going to present across the whole state of reoccurring and non-reoccurring funds for this. The reoccurring was for SROs. The non-reoccurring was to go in and you could buy like security cameras, metal detectors, just a one-time funding. So they had gotten the SROs, the $300,000 that he was referring to with the SROs. That money was half. They had a contract with the Sheriff's Department. It was $757,000 for the SROs. Their contract is to pay half of it. So their half is coming out of their budget back to the general fund. But what the paper did not clarify is they got a grant from the state that pays that portion. It does not come, they get that back, and we do not get that grant in our budget. It has to go directly to the school's budget. So they got $207,000 is what come from the state. And then on the non-reoccurring, one was $87,000 and one was $47,000. So we haven't been presented those yet, but those were numbers that come from the state representatives on what they.
I guess what you're seeing here is a pretty good example of what's going on, because she's pretty close on some things, and probably as far as she knows, it's correct. But you said you've been here 5 years, and we've had $15 million surplus. Well, when I came on the board, the state law requires that we have 3% of our budget we have to have some reserves. When I came, we had to borrow that, and we paid $30,000 in interest on it. And now, since then, and I'm going to keep trying to do that. We're trying to produce some reserves to do renovations, to build and pay for things that we don't have to ask the county commission for. That's something that we should realize during this process. Now, Angie and I both were in favor of getting the SOR officers, and our part is a reoccurring cost of about $370,000 a year forever, and that's money well spent, in my opinion. But we need to do more than that. We need metal detectors. We need to do more. But the only way that SOR officers enter this conversation is totally now the difference in our budget is that 1.6 plus that 370 odd thousand that we had to reach over on reserves and bring over, and that's going to be a reoccurring cost every year. Now, we're glad to do that, and we think it's money well spent, but it's still money, a reoccurring expense. It's going to be here forever. Now, the reserves that are showing up in our budgets right now may or may not show up forever. Here's some things that I don't know if Angie understands being on the commission, because I don't understand their budget. I don't think they can understand ours. The cost of fuel, electricity costs, we're going to be up in the spring before we know what our split this year, the city split is. So when we budget, we try to allow for that. We expect to have losses. What I mean by that is every year, based on average daily attendance, we're funded through the BEP funding. Some of you that were here early that saw that we got 0.4799 of every dollar. Well, those numbers were brand new in 2016 when we did all this stuff. That's already changed. We don't even get that split now. So that's a budgetary thing that we have to deal with. We project that. We've been very frugal with our money, and we are growing our reserves, and we intend to keep doing that to the point where at some point we hope to build an elementary school and pay for it. We don't want to raise taxes for it. But Angie, I want to ask you, do you remember the meeting that you and I were at Raphael's with Gerald? Is this the first time I showed you that sheet that night? Here's the thing. I'm going to say this publicly. I think most of the county commissioners didn't, when they voted, they had. And then you tell me if you disagree. I think most of them didn't know that this schedule was out there. Maybe somebody intended to put it out there. I don't know. I can't speak to that. I just know that the school system didn't get it until November the 27th, 2017. That's all I can tell you. And you heard Angie say that the 1.6 was going to go to pay for the bond. Okay? We didn't know that ahead of time. There's people who say that we did, some county commissioners, some that are not there anymore, they say that we did, but I came on the board in 2014. One of the first conversations I had with Dr. Gimme was, who told you that we could build 2 schools for $140 million? Because there had never been any real estimates. Now, we still have this computer, so most of this stuff is, I believe I can still prove it, but I think we still have this computer. We were told in the beginning, Angie was coming in the same time I was. We were both, I think you came in 2014, right? We could get $140 million. We were told that's what we can get. So I thought from the beginning that we would have to dip into reserves. I had no doubt that we would probably, we got $67 million for our portion of that $140 million. The Sullivan County did. Kings Point, Bristol got the other 52%. Then we got $20 million from the Southern North. So that gave us $87,199,000 and some odd dollars to build a high school and a middle school. So going into it, I mean, we didn't even get the real cost till, this past summer or something. So there's no way in 2000, and even if we had, whatever cost they showed you in 2016, because of the tariffs and different things, those costs would have changed by the time we went out to get bids. I see a hand up. Can you speak louder?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And I understand that there's a budget concern, and with all due respect, that doesn't help my son.
Well,
and my ask is the school board, county commission, Evelyn, whoever, go back and find different options, because these are the first three options that came up in a workshop, maybe a whiteboard or whatever, and these are the first three options. So my ask is that everybody go back and find other options that don't affect the kids, because next year you're still going to have a budget issue concern, and there's no more schools that you can close because you have too many kids.
Well, we're willing to look at any and every. She wasn't sent with any direction. The school board directed her to go come back with options, but we didn't give her any. Jason, you go ahead and I'll get you.
I'll let her go ahead first.
Okay, you go ahead.
I'm just curious, you said this was one of the options. What were the others?
Well, I assume that everybody saw in the paper.
Yeah.
Okay, the other two is Sullivan to Colonial Heights and Bluntville Middle School.
I thought that was all part of it.
Well,
It was billed as one big thing. Yeah.
Well, those are.
To do it all.
Those are three options that are out there.
Oh.
Then that wouldn't even, if you looked at them, I don't know what you've seen, what you've not seen, but if you look at the math, that would only get us about 1.3 under best conditions. That wouldn't get us 1.6 or 1.9. If, and I don't think that there's any option that's going to get us all that the 1.6 or the 1.9. There's other options that's not been discussed yet, is what I'm saying, that will come up, I'm sure. In fact, if you were at the workshop, everybody on the board was told, we challenged anybody to come back with some more and different options. I don't want the perception to be out there that this is a done deal. The only thing I think is not an option is not doing anything. We've got to recoup some of that money.
I think what we're all feeling like is that there's this war or battle between the commission and the school board, and we're all caught in the crossfire. We're the collateral damage.
Let me say this, and I'm going to say it one more time very clearly. This is Mike's opinion. I just come in 2014. I can prove all the things I say. You can see I brought enough with me. I can prove what I know. I don't know what happened before I got here. I'm only speculating on one. I only know that every commissioner that I asked when I got this document had never seen it. Now, I didn't get to ask all of them, but I asked the 8 or 9 that I knew. Angie, Johnson, Grubb, Harry, Cole. Those are people that some of them that's on the video. I asked. So, but even if they had shown every county commission, our board should have known of this beforehand. So I'm not throwing any rocks or making any accusations. It is what it is, and we have to deal with it.
Well, what can the county commission do to help?
Well, I don't know at this point, since the budgets have been passed and everything has been done, I don't know if there's anything they can do in this budget cycle.
Because it feels like the commission's very big on keeping our current schools.
It doesn't say or. It says and. The article says and, not or. For your options, the article says and, not or. There is no or,
Well, Jason, you're next. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hughes, I would like to say I was not expecting this. Yeah.
So I can clarify something before I forget. To me, if I have $15 million sitting in a fund balance, before I go out here and build any more schools, I'm going to take care of the programs and the kids here before I go out here and build any more buildings. That's my personal opinion, not the whole county commission. And we cannot sit here and take away programs when that's the whole reason of doing this.
And I believe her.
And
you know,
she's
we have
one of the
totally
directors of
different
STEM in the state of
commission now.
Tennessee.
There's 15 new
So this is not.
commissioners out of the 24.
Ooh, out of the blue.
So it's not the same commissioners that voted for the $140 million.
You said $15 million twice.
That's subtracting the $4.8 million or $4.6 million that you all got for the fields.
I don't know. We've got some different numbers. We'll have to go back and look. I've never seen $15 million. From my memory, we took 1.5 and set it in reserve for the sewer. We sent 4.8 for the football fields. We set aside 2.5 to balance this year's budget. And then I think the total reserves are around 11 something going into this process. And to get to your point now, you said you wouldn't go out and build other schools. These schools are under time. These things have been in motion since 2016. We're obligated. Once that commission, first of all, I didn't. Hold on, give me 1 second. I didn't vote for the plan that we're doing now. But once it was passed, it became my job to see it through. I'm not going to get halfway in, back up. It's going to be built. Middle school, high school. It's going to happen. The only thing we can do now, and I've said it many times, is make it less than what we can make it. We are going to build those schools, and we're going to be faced with budget issues. And let's go back to why we started the school thing to begin with. And it started long before I was on the board. There's been 2 studies. One, that they hired people in 2013 before I was on the board, and we spent $270,000. We spent another one, so that the total was we spent $405,000. The county commission asked me to do studies to find out what's the most efficient way to correct our problem. Most people have lost sight of what the problem is. We're heating and cooling 700,000 square feet of empty space, most of which is not fit to be repaired. Okay? So we didn't just go out, this school board up and say, we're going to build 2 schools. It's happened over several county commissions and several county school boards, most of which are not on either board now. So this process has been going on for 15, 18 years. Is that accurate? Somewhere in that neighborhood. So there's not an option. I mean, it sounds easy to say, I wouldn't go out and build 2 schools and not do this. Well, those schools are under construction, and they have been. And we've spent millions to get there. And in the end, we're going to realize those same increases when we're done. We're going to see reserves every year. Because, give me 1 second. Take, for example, up on mine, Holston Valley is going to close. If you look at the sheet out there, it's only 60% full. We had a $12,000 light bill. That school's coming to the new middle school. Bluff City, that's coming there. Not only are we going to save all the costs from heating and cooling that empty space, we're not going to maintain or rebuild or repair those schools anymore. We closed Weavers out there on mine. That put $500,000 back in our budget every year. That's where those reserves are coming for. And when we get done with that process, there will be a lot of money coming back to the school system into our reserves and savings. But right now, we're not there yet. Now, Jason, I've put you off long enough. Go ahead.
I would like
anybody else.
I'd like to say appreciate you coming down all the way to Holston. I know this ain't your district. I would assume Randall Jones would have been here.
Well, I came because I'm a spokesman for the board.
Okay.
And the whole district is, and I made it clear, I don't know if he was here, I'm speaking, I'm not speaking for the board,
okay.
I'm speaking on behalf of the board.
And I appreciate that.
Here's a misconception. And it's every board member, and we all disagree. At some point, I disagreed with every person on that board. I disagree with Angie, but I really like her a lot. We don't have to be enemies to disagree. Or just because we agree don't mean we're friends. Now, I think one thing Angie said is very accurate. But she and I were new. There should have been much better communication. I'm brand new on the board, and I'm not the chairman in 2014. I got here to handle the chairmanship in 2016. The first meeting I went to was in Kingsport with their mayor, their board chairman, and our mayor, and then I saw really how the world was working. I personally think that mistakes were made in the process, and it don't do any good to blame anybody. Our school board certainly makes mistakes. I believe during the process of getting this, I believe they would have been better off to make sure we had enough tax money to build the schools, build the jail, and do what we needed to do, and then pay it off and then lower taxes. What they tried to do, and I appreciate it. I'm a taxpayer. I'm not just a school board member. I pay taxes just like you do. I think what they tried to do was to come up with a way to build it for the schools for 9 cents, take some money out of our budget, take some money out of Kingsport's budget, take some out of Bristol's. Now, the 1.6, I've said that's legal. I don't like it. I don't like it when anybody takes money from us. The 1.9 and the money after that, my mind, and I work with lawyers for a living, I think that's illegal, and I don't think they can take it. Angie may or may not want to say whether she agrees with me here in public, but I understand if you don't. Do you think I'm right or do you think I'm wrong about the 1.9? Or do you want to say? Okay. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm right. But if I'm wrong, and they can't take it, I know that I'm right, that the money was distributed. So there's mistakes. And the reason there's mistakes, this mayor, this county commission, this school board, they haven't probably been through this process many times. So all I can tell you is the things I know. I can't talk about the things I don't know. I'm not here to tell you that we're not going to close Innovation Academy because I don't have that authority. I can tell you it's not been decided. I wouldn't be here tonight if I didn't really want to hear what you had to say, and it didn't matter. And somebody said I was going to get skin alive. That don't bother me. I do that for a living. I like the debate. I like to hear what you have to say. My feelings aren't easily hurt. I work for you. Maybe not this district, but I'm like Angie. We may have a different way of seeing things, but even though I disagree with Angie, I do know that her intentions are the best, and I hope she knows that mine are the best. We have a different way of looking at things. I want what's best for the students all over the county. And I hear, and I see a lot of hands, but give me a second. I see a lot of things in the emails like, it's always about the money. Well, yeah, sadly, it is. I'd like to say that it didn't matter, and it sounds good to say that, but it does matter. And we are going to, I promise you, if I stick around, I'm going to be around at least 4 more years, we're not going to ever find ourselves borrowing money again to meet state requirements. Now, I'd rather be criticized for having too much in reserves. That's a good criticism. But remember, that don't mean those reserves are going to show up every year. We've got a pretty good reserve built up now. We're going to spend some of it on the football field, some on the sewer line, some to balance our budget, and I have made plans to have some reserves next year. But what if the electricity goes up? What if we have a bad mirror? What if gas goes up? I don't think it is. I think it's going down. What if our city split changes? Lots of things we have to keep in mind. We can't even make a budget with real numbers because we don't know what those numbers are going to be till the spring. Really, we're pretty good guessers. We have the best accountant. And I worked with some really good ones. The best accountant, Ingrid Deloche. I'll challenge anybody. We've had two audits with no findings. She's awesome. Anyway, give me another question.
I hadn't even got to.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think in my opinion, if we're going to move these kids, we got to move them one time. I grew up in a situation where I was in 3 different homes going through school. I fell through the cracks. Raw deal whenever you find that out.
Which schools, when you think we're moving people twice, the reason I'm asking you this is, one of the reasons I don't want, one of them.
Well, here,
let me finish and I'll let you go. North would be a situation that we would have to move those kids twice if we closed that early. And I told people when we started, people called me right after this process started and asked me if we was going to leave North open until the high school open. And I said yes. Well, now we're pushing the high school out another year. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're pushing, we could have got it in earlier, but we're pushing it out for several reasons. I was asked about North. And my answer, and I've just got one say, but my answer is, no, I don't want to move those kids twice in 2 years. I don't want to move them south and then move them. So,
Well, if you go back to what was read in the paper, if you take Sullivan Gardens, stick them to Colonial Heights, there's one move. 2 years down the road, they get moved again.
I see what you're saying.
And then if you take the elementaries, however, that's starting to work. I mean, you look at Bloomingdale 10 years ago. They closed Cedar Grove, Kingsley, Brookside, Gravelly. All right, they got closed on that one. They went to Ketron whenever they redone it. Then Ketron had to go to North, and then they come back to Ketron. And now those kids are getting ready to get moved again. And you want to know why, everybody, you go to Gate City and find out so many Virginia tags over there?
Yep.
It's because they've been moved.
They've been moved to that big school with all them kids. They didn't want part of that.
Exactly. Well, it's just not that. They're tired of the instability. So we're going to take Sullivan Gardens, put the Colonial Heights, Blumpville to here, and then we're going to go back to the schools that we don't have money to renovate that we was promised on Central and South. Remember that. We're going to stick kids in a high school that wasn't good enough for a high school, but they're going to be good enough for a middle school.
Jason.
Yes, sir.
That money that you're talking about, you were promised to renovate?
It was in 140 million. It was in the Uni plan.
Well,
it was on the Together for Tomorrow plan.
But Jason, realistically, where that money was always coming from, in my mind, was the reserves that was going to be coming back to us. And I don't know if you were in here or not, but I never thought mathematically that would work. But I do see and can see where we would have, well, like we've done this year. If when things go well, and as we close schools and these changes, we're going to see savings and we're going to have reserves. And those are the monies, including the 1.6, is what, when I was thinking about this project as a new board member, I was saying, well, we're going to have that 1.6. We got 1.9 coming off in debt. We got 2.4 coming off in debt. We're going to, when we closed Weavers, that was 500,000. When we close Holston Valley, that's going to be, I'm guessing, 400. When we close some of those schools and combine them, you save those hunks of money.
Is that not a one-time savings, though?
No, because every year in our budget from that Weaver's closing, and Angie does understand this somewhat because I've heard her talk about it. In the BEP funding, it funds us as though everyone is in one school. Okay? So if you got 40 kids and 30 of them are here and 10 of them are somewhere else, then you get funded as though those 40 kids are in that same school.
And I get that.
So,
and I guess I kind of wondering is, we read that article in the paper and we've got the option of, like I said, Sullivan Gardens to Colonial, Blumpville to here. I read that in the paper as a threat saying basically, you can either get on board with what we're going to do or we're going to pick another option. It's just almost like we're holding these kids over the barrel.
That's not true. What we're really saying is we're trying to put out there as early as we can the things that could happen so that people can't say in July or May, April, that here we are, school's fixing to start, and you're just now mentioning this.
Well, I understand that, but whoever put that out, they need to probably use their word usage better because
I really haven't read the article.
Well, I probably would because it's very bad.
I know what we said. I don't.
Wow.
Why do I need to read?
Mr. Hughes,
because it's what we were told.
Well, but I know what went on. I know what went on in the meeting, and no matter what it says in print.
But
I know what we're going to do. I don't really.
I just understand that the whole fact of, we as the public, we as parents, we've got skin in the game. My kids ain't really going to be affected until they go to this new school. All right, so my daughter's going to go to Central, and then she's going to have to come up here as a junior or a sophomore. That's going to be traumatic enough as it is. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the point of, we keep talking about this 1.6 million. Mr. Hughes, I read an article. I would look at it up on the Times News in October. Mr. Hughes sit there and made, if I had known that I wasn't going to have this money, we would have went a different way. Let me show you this right here. I wasn't expecting him to be here. Tim Flanagan's the video guy on July the 12th. at the moment, 1 hour and 27 minutes. Gerald Sensabaugh asked Mr. Hughes, are we losing the renovation fund? He said, yes, we are. Look at the reaction on one board member putting his hand in his head, because the public had just found out that we weren't going to have no renovation funds. I dare you all to look it up. They have misled us. They have sent our kids off to, it's...
Who is misled you?
You all.
When?
That, right there. Look at this. Look at this right here.
Why did a school board member
1 hour
tell
and 27
someone in
minutes
September
into
the
the video
Innovation
guy's
Academy was
video.
being closed?
I don't know anything about that.
Gerald Sensabaugh, right there.
It was told to a state person. The
Well,
Innovation
they have misled
Academy
us.
will be closed.
I have the date here that we were told.
And this came from
Nobody told, nothing had been said until Gerald Sensabaugh brought it up to you saying,
I don't know what this board member knew or the other one knew.
You don't have to whenever he turns around and looks at the public.
I don't know what he's doing
Look
there.
at look at the video.
You
can see
what they
it.
were going to do.
You don't know what he's doing.
You can see the reaction whenever it's told.
Look, let me make this clear. Every document I have, I can prove everything I've said. I've not misled anybody one iota.
When was the first time that you said the renovation fund?
The Times News also says that there's going to be an 800-person middle school. We only have 649 kids going to that school. I've heard for 2 years we're not building that school big enough. Well, and that's another false printing. I can't correct the Kingsport Times or whoever prints things incorrectly. We got 649 kids showing up at that new middle school right now that I keep hearing that we're building too small because it's for 700. Just because you read something or hear it, I can't answer.
I quoted you in the paper.
I did say that. If I had a knew in 2016, Jason, that they were going to take money out of our renovation, I'd have threw a fit. I'd have said, we're not going to build any schools. And by the way, I didn't vote for this plan to begin with.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is we had the opportunity to take that money. We would have took a loss on the land. We could have fixed Central. We could have fixed South.
First of all, Jason, I'm not even going to go. Let me tell you what else I had happen. We're off track here, but we're going to get back on track in just a minute. I had people come to the school board meeting after we had already chose the property and tried to get me to move the middle school property down to Piney Flats. Okay? The county commission voted based on these two pieces of property. They voted on that. They made me meet on December the 10th and choose the property. And I did. So once we did that, that's the piece of property we were going to build. The people that was wanting us to build on Piney Flats, their business partner owned one of the pieces. So once the school board voted and the county commission voted, there's no going back. That was not an option. You're wrong about that. That would have been absolutely. We had spent millions at that point. There was no option in August that we were going to stop and go a different direction. The county commission, when they voted December the 12th, that was the day that this was decided. Now, I've seen another question.
I'd like to ask a few things on the rapid succession or whatever. Number one is the high school is going to get built. If we backed out of it now, it could be out $50-something million. It would be worth anything. So that, you might as well just get over that part. It's going to happen, right? We can back out if we want.
We couldn't, we wouldn't. Nobody in the right mind would do that.
So that's just, we might as well drop it and move on, right?
That's part of the problem. There's a group of people who keeps thinking that something's going to happen, and that's not going to happen. That hurts the whole process.
So then the next step is, I know that there's supposedly not a technical or whatever, but we need you guys to communicate between the commission. Now, she mentioned reserve. How much reserve do you have? The question of you.
Well, whatever we have, we took 5 and put for the football field. We took 1. Now, I'd have to look at those numbers. It's not 15 or something crazy.
No, but is it?
No,
Is it $94,000?
Here's the way we created this reserve.
Just don't pay your mortgage. Right.
We can do that for 1 year. you could do any of it, and you couldn't do it correct. Well, again, it's not something that's been done, it's something that's being discussed.
So that was my question, what do you have left